Hot stove conversations about baseball, history, football, and current events that may leave you saying there's more to consider. Now, here's your host, Jack Moore.
Welcome to another edition of More to Consider. Today, I'm doing sort of an introduction here for the video you're getting ready to see. I have mentioned on many shows, I have been friends with Tom House since 1993. Tom House was a former major league pitcher. He pitched at Southern Cal, University of Southern California. Pitched at the time with Tom Seaver, played for Rod Dedeaux. And one of the shows we did recently, he talked about the influences that led him to play at Southern Cal, played on national championship teams. Back in the 60s and 70s, there was nothing like Southern Cal baseball. A lot of Dave Kingman, later Mark McGuire, Randy Johnson played there. Fred Lynn played with Tom as well in that time at Southern California. So there was a phenomenal number of players, crazy numbers of guys that got into professional baseball, and many that played at the major league level that went to Southern Cal during that sort of hotspot period for Rod Dedeaux. So Tom and I met at a camp. He was introduced as the guy that caught Hank Aaron's 715th home run, April 8th, 1974, in the bullpen, Fulton County Stadium, Atlanta, Georgia. And I knew who that was. I was like, well, that's Tom House that caught the home run. And I knew the story behind it. So I approached him. I wanted to hear everything he had to say about pitching mechanics and things. And we hit it off. And years later, when I was doing a lot of individual instruction with kids, I would take a lot of guys in pro ball out to work with Tom, and he developed them. He helped them a lot. And some kids had some real success, and we were having quite a goal rush in Virginia Beach at the time, Norfolk, Virginia Beach, Chesapeake, a lot of kids getting into professional baseball. I just recently took a young man out that I'd coached in college to work with Tom, and we had another opportunity to get together. We had some unforeseen audio difficulties with the playback. So I'm doing this introduction to show that we're going to kind of jump right into the interview. There's lots of good content there, things we discussed. And just to give you a little bit of background, I wanted to go into some of the psychology of playing at that level, playing at the major league level, what it's like when it ends. I was actually watching Trevor Bauer today on a spot on YouTube, made an interesting point because I've seen guys kind of live this. Part of the reason so many guys have financial struggles coming out of professional baseball, if they get some major league time, is say they get 6-7 years of major league time and they're up and down a lot. And the $700,000 minimum salary a day, as Bauer was saying, that might approach $400,000, and then you're going to pay half that to taxes and some to an agent. And when you go back and look at the earning years these guys have at the big league level, it's just not that great a number. So it's very, very difficult when you're making that kind of money for a short period in your 20s, and then you have the rest of your life. So we talk about the rest of your life type of things, Tom and I do, what it was like to realize the game was over for him professionally at 32, and then he went into coaching. And why do some guys go into coaching, other guys look for other things to do with their life. But you've been so heavily identified as a professional athlete, then you're not. And we talked about the psychology of that. And again, when I met him and started to take guys out, I was around to see when he began to work with Drew Brees in 2005-ish. Around that time, I was in San Diego with him, with Tom, and he was talking about what a great guy Brees was. And Brees then got injured playing for the Chargers. Tom did his rehab work on his shoulder injury. He came back better than ever, won a Super Bowl. Then everybody that came out of the woodwork really wanted to work with him, including what led to his association and working with Tom Brady. So he's worked with the top. He's worked with the very best. I know at one point he had like 3/4 of the 32 NFL teams, 3/4 of the starters were coming to work with him. So because of the little audio thing, I wanted to do a little introduction, talk about how I've been friends with this guy for 30 plus years. He has a PhD, 2 master's degrees, and 2 bachelor's degrees. He's highly educated. Again, pitched 8 years in the big leagues, was a pitching coach. Nolan Ryan's pitching coach at the time. He's with the Texas Rangers. So he runs into a lot of famous people, and he was also played by Bill Paxton in the movie $1 Million Arm, where they brought the 2 kids in from India and attempted to get them signed professionally, which they did. They both signed professionally with the Pittsburgh Pirates back in the early 2000s. So I kind of remember being around during that time as well. I'm back and forth to California taking kids out to work with him. His day every day was out there on Dado Field at the University of Southern California, Los Angeles. So a lot of these things were going on when I was making trips out. And I would see some of these athletes out there that work with him. There was always good times. We had a really good time at Southern California. So again, if you like what we do here, please like and subscribe. More to consider. We're on Rumble, YouTube, all the different sites. Please like and subscribe. And please leave comments if you have any questions, especially if you have any questions about what we do or questions for Tom based upon this interview. Thank you very much, and please enjoy.
It works for parenting. It also works for on-the-field coaching and in the front office. It's similar across the board.
So that, again, Vince Lombardi being considered one of these greatest coaches of all time. Hall of Fame, named a trophy after him. With all that we have with someone like that, the fact that he would go to players and say, what am I missing, says a lot. There's a thing about personality, too. On football, again, Bill Parcells. When he gets the head coaching job in '83, they turn in like a 4-win season. The wheels are coming off the cart. It's awful. And he says to himself, if I'm going to go out, I'm going to do it exactly my way. And then he starts to unload people that he doesn't think are on board. And, of course, the famous story is Lawrence Taylor gets offered by Donald Trump $1 million to play in the USFL, and he hangs it over the Giants about coming back to the Giants, whether he's I didn't know the legalities, whether I'd get out or not. But they asked Parcells in an interview, did you know that Taylor went to the Giants and said, if he goes, I go? Can you believe that? And Parcells like, that's my guy. But they butted heads early. And one day Taylor tells him, if you keep yelling at me, I'm gone. Trade me, bench me, whatever. And he says, okay, you want to do it your way? Do it your way. But if you make any mistakes, we're going to have a conversation, because I never made any more mistakes. But they love each other. You can tell today. It's interesting that they had their moment. They drew their lines. And this is the way things are going to be. And then when it came time for the player to stand up for the coach, he did. Only through circumstances of a second league. But that, I think, is that whole balance that coaches struggle with. And I think you've been there and you'd agree. I don't want to be their friend. There has to be a line drawn. There has to be that something.
Yes.
But at the same time, I think guys are going to play better for you. Not so much if they like you. They have to respect you first. They have to know where that line is drawn. But if your playing experience is more pleasant.
Well, here's a thought to add into it.
Right.
You're exactly right with everything you just said. But structure and authenticity is
right.
Key. And if you haven't got structure, if it's not a predictable workplace where they actually know their boundaries, that if they do this, then this is the consequence. There has to be boundaries. There has to be a time frame, and there has to be expectations that are managed. Like, I was not a front-end pitcher, but as a guy that was in the bullpen mopping up, if I was consistent at being a mop-up guy, I had a job.
Right.
And if I was told every day that you're going to be a just-in-case guy, and if it's a blowout, you're going to save innings and arms for the guys that are really good. If you know your role and the boundaries are there, and it's authentic, then you'll thrive in that environment. You don't have to have a great time. It doesn't have to be a joyful situation, but you have to be a believer in the system and understand that you're being treated fairly for what your expectations are. What I see and what I've seen over the last 50 years, the athletes that have trouble with coaching staff, their role hasn't been defined properly.
Right.
They don't know when they've crossed the line or when they haven't reached that line. And that is not the athlete's fault. That's the coach's fault. Now, here's where the pressure comes on. When the coach has laid it out and the athlete knows exactly what he's supposed to do, when and where he's supposed to do it, and he doesn't produce, then he has no complaints if he gets released. But if he does his job, then Don Zimmer and I did not get along at all. But when I did what he thought my role would be, where I was just mopping up, I was consistently inconsistent, and he was happy with that. It's when the expectations on either side and the structure and the authentic belief in the system don't match up that you've got issues not only as a team problem, but as a chemistry problem between coach and athlete.
So you've told that story with Zimmer and going out, the negativity of coaching, handing the ball instead of whatever you do,
Exactly.
don't hang the curveball. And of course the brain goes right into visions of hanging curveballs. And then Chris Chambliss, so many, 400 feet later, that's not excuse making for you saying but it's just not a real good message.
But the key is I didn't know at that time.
Right.
If I would have known then what I know now,
you could have ignored it.
I would have reframed.
Right.
He's telling me not to let Chambliss take me deep. What he's asking me to do is make a good pitch.
Yes.
And if I would have reframed it in my mind, it wouldn't have been the issue that we're talking about right now. And this surprised me about Zim. I thought he literally hated me. I was one of the Buffalo Heads. I don't know if you remember that story. But there were 5 of us that were on his bad list.
Right.
Billy Lee, Rick Wise, Jim Willoughby, myself, and Reggie Cleveland. We were on his poop list. No place to hide. And yet, before he died, my name came up in a conversation with somebody about the story I said with Chambliss. And he said, literally, I think Tommy House he really tried. He probably tried too hard to contribute to the Red Sox. And what I perceived as his lack of confidence in me wasn't a lack of confidence. He realized that the way I was performing was causing me issues that he didn't have an answer for.
Right. So that's an interesting perspective.
So,
yeah.
And he's up in heaven. His description of him is he never really had a job in real life.
Right.
He had 60 years in baseball.
Absolutely.
So he was a good baseball man. He may not have talked like I talk with the words I talk with. But if I would have understood that about him when I was with the Red Sox at that time, it may have been a much different experience for him.
Well, I was telling a friend the other day, way off topic, but my father got drafted during the Korean War. 18 months in, he's an E5. He takes a battery of tests. He's through the roof IQ, so they put him in OCS. When he's 70-some, 50 years later, after Fort Bliss, Texas, and going through OCS and finishing at the top of the class without a college education, they released all the paperwork. And I'd heard all the stories. My dad said, yeah, I was, I finished in the top of the class, whatever. Well, I see the paperwork released from St. Louis. And there was a guy, Officer Candidate Moore, maybe the greatest candidate, blah, blah. He goes, Jack, I thought that guy was going to kill me every day. So the guy that was the TAC officer in charge of the instruction, physically, emotionally, everything destroyed him every day. And he's writing the most glowing reports. He said the most shocking part of the paperwork, but I guess in that Army mentality, it was, let's see if I can push him over the limit. Right. Let's see if there's a limit where he breaks. So he perceives that the guy hates my guts. I can't stand me. But as part of the training, we're not to that extreme as coaches. No. But I think what you're saying about Zimmer, you were becoming a great frustration. He didn't, not that he disliked you.
No, he had a gestalt. He had a map of reality on what a pitcher should be,
right,
and what his role should be. And when he put me in that role, and I didn't fit his gestalt,
what are you going to do?
So that there was the friction, not because I was a bad person, but it didn't fit his model. And Eddie Matthews the same way. I don't know if I've ever told you this story, but in spring training in 1974, Eddie Matthews was our new manager.
Mm-hmm.
And I always went in and said to my manager, what do you need to see out of me for me to be in your bullpen? And when I asked him that, he looked me in the face and said, I wouldn't count on you breaking with a big league team. If you make the team, we're not going to be as good as I want us to be.
Right.
So I said, okay, what do I do to fight for a chance to make the club? He said, I don't know, just, why don't you talk to Herm Starrett and you guys figure it out. So what I asked Herm, I said, look, I want to go on every B game, every road trip, every split squad. I want any chance I have to get in the game. You don't have to schedule me to pitch. Put me JIC and see what happens. I got more innings that spring training than any other spring training I went to in 15 years.
Right.
And I made the ball club because I didn't give up a run. So he called me in and he said, okay, I'm going to use a bad word. He said, okay, you little shit, you made the team, but don't screw up, because the first time you screw up, I'm going to send you back to Richmond. I didn't screw up that summer. I had the best year of my life.
Right.
And it was a combination of him setting expectations, the fact that I had my job description, and I was not going to screw up that job description. And then again, I caught Henry Aaron's 715th, so it took a little pressure with performance off the table. And that combination gave me the best year of my career. I remember my career was marginal, really, really good, marginal. So you never know what chemistry is going to be created. The one thing I did do under pressure was perform. And that's the difference between guys that play in the big leagues and don't. Because everybody has these little mini crises. Everybody's trying to manage chemistry so that they can get to the big leagues. The guys that manage the chemistry and produce and have fun doing it are the ones that play in the big leagues.
Yeah, it's when I met you the first time, you were introduced as the guy. I want to ask you this because I don't think I've ever asked you this way before. This is a guy, April 8th, 1974, catches a home run. I'm like, I know him. That's Tom Howe. But I knew about your pitching instruction background as well. But that first time at the Doyle School in Florida, I heard that introduction, and I've seen you, and you have a way about you to kind of like a little bit make fun, poke fun at yourself, etc. on certain aspects. Look, I remember we had this conversation 25 years ago, and you're like, Jack, how many guys have ever played the big leagues? I'm like, God, I can't think it's much more than 15 or so. It's like 17,000. Now I think it's 23 maybe.
It's not very many.
But that's in the history of the world, right?
For one day of service or more.
One day. And I actually, the kid that we had on the phone today that we were hooking up with Matt, that kid played for a guy. And he tells me, I'm like, hey, your manager seems like a really good guy. And he goes, oh, I love him to death. He goes, here's his claim to fame. He's in the big book. He's in the reference book. He was with a particular major league club. It's last day of the season. He got a September call-up. He's been sitting on the bench for 3 weeks. And they're like, yeah, go catch the last inning. And he catches 3 outs, including a strikeout, and gets a put out. That's his whole career.
But he was in the big league.
But he's right, and he's in the book for catching 3 outs. Never got an at bat, and so that makes up part of the 20+ thousand people.
Yeah.
There's a lot of those. So you got to do probably the time you went in, you were probably in the 15,000 range or so. So you got to do what so very few people. You can't. It's AAA stadium of people that have ever been there. And you do sort of, I remember one of your videos you said, highlighted my career as I caught Hank Aaron's home at low light. That was a highlight.
True.
But what did it, just a question I want to ask you, like, what did it do to you, as much as you want to talk about this, but did it feel bad to kind of get identified with that? I know how much you loved Hank Aaron, and it was great, but did it become too much of a,
well, this is what I noticed.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I've ever said this on any medium.
Right.
But people treated me different after I caught that ball. And I ran it in and gave it to Henry.
In a better way.
Mm-hmm. Umpires kind of gave me a little break.
Okay.
I mean, I saw it because there was a visual of me giving the ball to him.
I think that was a class act, clearly, yes.
Well, but anybody on the field would have done it.
Sure. But you were the one that did it, right?
And I think my teammates and other people in baseball looked at me a little bit different. So instead of getting a break going the wrong way, I got breaks going the right way. And that was one of the reasons that from the outside, remember, there's the person you are,
mm-hmm.
the person you want to be, and the person that people see. And I think for the first time in my baseball life, all three of those things matched up the year I caught Henry's 715.
And that was your great season.
That literally was the highlight.
And that's in the first week of the season.
Right, and that carried me.
Yeah.
So, from a personal standpoint, I kind of relaxed a little bit and said, if I never really play any time beyond this year, I've done something that nobody else has done. It got me in the Hall of Fame.
And I know this side of the story, too, that I want the listeners to hear. All the veteran guys were lining up down the left field line, correct? Yeah. Expecting that Aaron would pull the ball, and you kind of got the left center spot.
Well, this is, I think, one of the reasons I pitched in the big leagues, because I looked for things that nobody else saw.
Right.
And I saw when Henry hit off of a left-handed pitch.
Al Downing.
Whenever the ball was away and moving away from him,
mm-hmm.
and he hit the ball hard, it always went to left center. And the other time, he pulled him right down the line. So all the veterans wanted to be right down the line.
And you were like, okay.
I was perfectly happy with left center because I'd thrown enough batting practice to guess, all right, Downing's not going to throw him anything in.
Right.
So if Downing makes a mistake, it's going to come left center. And damn if it did. And that's what I was really good at playing the game before the game. Before they had all the statistics they have
Right.
right now. I had to do that in my own mind because I pitched people different than what the scouting report said. And because of that, I had to almost prepare myself and my infielders and my outfielders to deal with how I threw the ball.
Mm-hmm.
And when you do that and people respect it and they'll move, like when I tell Sugar Bear, Larvell Blank, that I wanted him to play this hitter to pull, he would do it for me. Before that, he just stayed with the scouting report said it.
Right.
But after whatever catching Henrys, they treated me different.
Treated you different,
and
sure.
I said, can you shade toward third base? And he would do it. So those are the kind of things that don't show up in the newspaper or on a scorecard. But it's the subtle things that help you perform day in and day out more efficiently.
What do you think is the most? So we're kind of getting into the manager thing, the psychology, whether guys know they're applying psychology or not. Because we've talked about the Oakland A's, you talked about the '84 Padres. There seems to be so much tension within teams, but success. So what do you think is the number one thing that makes teams win?
I would say commitment to each other. Like the Oakland Athletics, they fought every day. Billy North
and Jackson
and Reggie Jackson would fight every day about something. Knockdown, drag out fights, not push you around fights. But who do you think was the first man on the field when someone threw at Reggie Jackson's head?
North was on it.
That team chemistry. You may not you wouldn't choose to go out to dinner with this guy.
Right.
But as your teammate or as your brother in the family, if someone's picking on my brother, I'm going to defend my brother. And I see that with successful teams. And Dick Williams
was on both of those.
Yeah. Dick Williams was kind of a butthead.
Yeah.
He treated everybody equally bad. That would be the easiest way. Brilliant baseball mind. But his social interactions were sometimes a little tough.
Do you think that could draw players together, though?
It can.
Right.
But there's also chemistry where, like Bruce Bochy.
Right.
Bruce Bochy.
Everybody loves him.
Is this big old bear of a human being that never raises his voice until he has to. And they'll kill for him because they know that Bruce has their back. He is a player, pitcher's manager.
Right.
He will never throw a player under the bus.
Yeah.
And they win for him. So
it's too many different models.
Yeah, but the consistent thing is a belief and the authentic belief in your players and your coaches.
Well, somebody told me years ago when I was coaching in college, he said, Jack, stop looking for the superstar all the time. Get some average kids from great programs.
What's going on with Milwaukee Brewers right now? They do not have a superstar in that team, and they're leading the league.
Yes.
I think they're leading big league baseball in wins.
Yes.
They just play the game.
Well, the point he made, I saw it come out. I'll give you a really bizarre example of this. What I saw was that there are kids that come out of good programs, and when they go to college and the program loses, they hurt. And then when you get the superstar, middle of the order guy that played on a losing program, he just wants his batting average up or home runs, or he's going to be the one that tries to steal third with 2 out and get thrown out and end the inning. And he's going to do the selfish things because he's never been on a winning team, even though he may be talented. So when I was in college, our baseball coach got the girls' volleyball team. And he's like, hey, go around and keep score for me, whatever. So I started traveling. Team didn't do well. We had a young lady that was probably the last young lady on the volleyball squad that won a national championship at a JUCO.
So she had won before.
She'd won the national championship, but she was like the last young lady. So from that JUCO that won it, all of them went to big Division I schools. Right. We're in AIA, Gardner-Webb's Division I now where I went. But we go to this tournament, and there's girls there, seniors. They've been there 4 years. They've lost it. They've been through 4 coaches. Mm-hmm. And so on the van trips back, they're like, oh, nobody cares about us. We all have. So we go to this tournament, and I've never seen such a sport where momentum shifts is great. We'd be up 7-0. They'd call timeout. The team comes back. Boom, boom, boom. They just beat the hell out of them. So we've blown a bunch of games. And I look on the steps, and this young lady who had won the national championship as a role player is bawling. And the rest of the girls are like, what the hell's her problem? And I went, oh, wow. She just came from a winning program. She just lost. She's upset. She's crying. The rest of them didn't care. And I thought, this is why they don't win. Now, when that twig got bent is a question.
here's something that you just described. Winning and losing, you're going to lose in sports.
Right.
But when losing hurts more than it feels good to win, you got to get out of the game. You can be 0 for 12, and if you have a good game, that good game flushes all the 0 for 12. And that's the only way you survive in sport. You have to have a short memory about the bad things, learn from it, and project it onto something that will help you with this decision, this particular act, this particular throw. And the people that do that and have a track record of realizing that that's how you win games, if you have 9 men on the field and every one of them are approaching the game just like that, to where it's one play at a time and they're doing the best they possibly can, then that's how games are won in the long haul. On the short term, there's going to be peaks and valleys. And again, I'm going to reinforce, when kids, it hurts more to lose than it feels good to win, and you can't get out of that loop, you've got to go home.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I guess that's the whole thing about sports. Like, I'm talking to somebody yesterday that's a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. I'm like, oh, wow, Rodgers is going back for another. You know, I knew he was going to the Steelers, but I didn't think, wow, it's been 21 years now, like all of a sudden. And, you know, and of course, your work with Brady and Breeze, guys that played to advanced ages, but were in phenomenal shape and, you know, clearly physically still capable of playing the game. I guess when that light switch goes, I mean, it happened with you for baseball, I'm sure, that the light switch goes off and you're not that anymore.
Yeah, you can't be the thing that holds you together.
Right.
And that's when you have to come to terms with where you are and move on. And it's hard, like with both Brady and Brees, you brought their names up.
Mm-hmm.
One of the most difficult things that was happening to them in their golden years, when they were in their 40s,
right,
is they don't have a lot in common with everybody else on the roster. The kids on the roster listen to different music. Their social media is different.
Right.
And try being a dad with 3 kids when you're running around with a bunch of 25-year-olds. And that was a tough an adjustment to being an older player and succeeding as anything else in the game.
But I tell you what I did see. After Brady won with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I think it was Dan Patrick's show, but it was a show, and they get one of the linebackers, 26-year-old kid, probably 27, and they were like, what was it like playing with Brady? He goes, man, that is the coolest guy I've ever known in my life. Like, he comes in first day, and we're like, okay, that's Tom Brady, and he's palling around with us, he's reaching out to us, and he really settled the locker room.
Well, he remembers their names, remembers their families, says hi every day, and it's authentic. He's not just going through the motions, because there's quarterbacks out there right now that play that game, but they're not really sincere about it. So be aware that, and Breeze was the same way. Mm-hmm. He got along with everybody.
Right.
Because he did take an interest and it was authentic. He wasn't just doing it for quote, quote, team chemistry. He really cared about the individual.
How much, because having taught at a college level, been involved with coaching with you and coaching baseball, the education classes I took, and what I'm saying here, I'm not trying to be provocative or anything, but I remember doing some education courses because I knew I had an interest in education, majored in history, got a master's in history, went to law school. And the education courses I took, generally, I thought were totally useless. And I would deal with people in administrative positions in colleges who were education majors. And I thought, because you know me, when I taught the criminal justice classes I told them stories about being in a courtroom, prosecuting or working on defense, and what happened on that night that there was a stop on the street and what the cop did or didn't do. Because they're reading from a text, like what the Fourth Amendment. I said, let me tell you what happens when you do this. So that's how I taught. I didn't really see that a lot stressed from the education people. So here's what I'm asking. We have to get coaches, I think, to more and more accept the role that it is a teaching role.
It's absolutely.
Where are they going to get it from?
Yeah, and it has to be humanized. It has to be personal experience, and stories about where you can bring words to life are huge. Remember, kids learn, everybody learns by hearing, seeing, and feeling. And you combine all 3 of those with your own personal experiences. And when a coach or a teacher is able to bring a personal bring to life
Right.
what are words on a page and tell a story about how it actually applies. That's huge in the teaching environment. And it's one of the reasons that my favorite group to work with are the 12 and under kids.
Right.
Because any story you tell them is the first time they've heard it.
Right.
And if you can engage them in listening to a story and it has a teach to go with it, that kid's going to get better every day.
You entered the major leagues for the first time in 71?
71, cup of coffee. Yeah.
So I want to ask you this question. That is the first year that the Pittsburgh Pirates put a 9-man group on the field that are not white.
Right.
And Danny Murtaugh was the manager. So you are roughly 25 years behind Jackie Robinson, breaking the color barrier. How much of, because I see the same thing in the military, I think you know where I'm going with this. How much of a beauty was it for you to play Major League Baseball or play minor league baseball on the way up that all these guys from different cultures get thrown in together? Do you think it helps a lot of guys grow in their acceptance of others?
Without a doubt. Now I'm going to expand a little bit on the Pittsburgh Pirates.
Right.
I was on the field that year with the Braves, where I was the only white guy on the field on both teams.
Right.
So, but I was blessed or lucky to go through the minor leagues with Dusty Baker being my roommate, both in minor leagues here and in winter ball. And coming from California, we didn't have quite the same issues that the Southern kids and their makeup. But sports are a great homogenizer. Really, you could be pink with purple polka dots, and if you're getting base hits when you're supposed to, you're going to be accepted as part of the team. Some of the off-the-field stuff may have been an issue, but I can honestly say I never played on a team where race was an issue when it came to competition. Everybody pulled for everybody.
Okay.
So I got lucky there.
Right. And like I say, we're 20-odd years after Jackie Robinson, and of course we've seen depictions. And Larry Doby's playing in the big leagues that same summer.
Right.
And then there's, but like we said the other day about talking about Ted Williams, and what we were talking about, we're not too terribly far from where Ted Williams grew up. And Tommy brought up the point, he was half Mexican. His mom was Mexican.
He's in the Mexican Baseball
He's in the Mexican Baseball Hall of Fame. And he carried with him, according to accounts I've heard, a certain amount of sensitivity to race, because growing up, he always kind of thought some people looked at him sideways because he wasn't completely white or something. It was some kind of a knock on him for having a Mexican heritage. So in 1966, when he's inducted into the Hall of Fame, he actually makes comments about the Negro League players need to be in the Hall of Fame. And what's touching is, and you can find this on YouTube, Pumpsy Green talks about his first day, and he is Cornell Green that played with the Dallas Cowboys' brother. So he gets called up in 59. So from 47 to 59, the Red Sox had not yet integrated. So Pumpsy Green says, I go in, I'm in the locker room, or I'm in the clubhouse, and I'm kind of like, okay, how's this going to go? First guy to offer, let's go play catch, is Ted Williams. And I just heard all these stories. Giving you well, a little bit of coarse personality.
Yeah, he was a rough guy. The best cusser I've ever heard in my life. If you really want to know, he could put together cuss words in combinations that were unbelievably efficient, if that makes sense. He was way, way smart.
Yes.
Way, way ahead as far as how you hit successfully in the big leagues, but kind of socially inept. He was a hard man to like.
Right. Did you ever see him take any BP or anything, swing a little bit?
I saw him as basically his career, he was done.
Right, 1960.
So my turnover, I got to play against Mays, Clemente, Mantle, all those guys in spring trainings as their careers were winding down. And the one constant that I saw with that group that had to go through the color stuff was they were unified not only as blacks and browns, but also as teams that had blacks and browns on.
Yes.
One of the things I like to bring up, my first spring training, we stayed at the Alma Hotel, which was over the top of a mortuary where they brought dead people in and out.
Right.
Dusty Baker, Ralph Garr, and I went out the first night we were in spring training, and we went downtown West Palm somewhere, and the restaurant we walked into wouldn't serve Dusty and Ralph. I was shocked because I'd never seen that.
Never seen it before, right?
So didn't blink. We just went to Dusty and had some of the best barbecue I've ever had in my life. So it was a learning experience for me too.
Sure.
And then playing in Venezuela in winter ball and going through what we went through down there. We went through a revolution where we went to the ball.
Right.
And there were 16-year-old machine guns and I'm going, Dusty, I don't really want to die here. So those are the kind of things, experiences in the minor leagues that carry over to the big leagues. And all of a sudden, Henry Aaron's chasing the record, and
right.
Dusty and Ralph are his kind of soldiers that go with him everywhere he goes. And because I was friends with them, I had access to Henry that other guys on the team, even though I was a low-end guy,
sure,
I got to know Henry on a personal basis, where some guys that played with him never got that close to him.
Were you aware of the death threats and all the tension?
Only because of Dusty.
Only because of Dusty.
And I knew something was up because Henry never rode to the hotel on the bus.
Wow.
He would always go separately, and he had a different, I think he was one of the first guys that had a different name.
On the road.
So, we knew some things. And then Calvin, I'm drawing a blank on his last name. Henry had a personal bodyguard.
Right.
So I didn't know the depth.
Right.
But I knew that there was something screwy going on.
And I know, and likely, or understandably, he carried a lot of pain through the years over that. I think he released some of it over time, but he did.
He was the most,
which I can understand,
quietly competent superstar I've ever been around in my life. He was extremely talented.
Yeah.
And produced accordingly, but never really made any noise or called any attention to himself.
No.
I heard him 20 times on the bench say, "Get me to the plate, boys. This game is over." So I knew he knew how good he was.
Right.
But I think Billy, his wife at the time, was probably more in tune with what was going on in society and more vocal about it than Henry ever was. But again, he was doing things behind the scenes that someone with lesser stature could never have gotten done.
So, folks, once again, I'm with this man that has meant so much to me in the past 30 years as a mentor, friend, fellow coach. We work with young people together and everything. And I'd love to do this. I'm out in California again, so we had this opportunity to do a show together again. So, Tom, on the way out here, it's not just about kids that might eventually, we work around prospects. It's all you do every day. You see a lot of high-end kids and kids that are not that, but you do a lot of work with kids that have tremendous futures in baseball. What would you say to parents and players about the perspective that you think is healthiest as a professional in the field? What do you think is the healthiest approach? And sort of what you said earlier, when it ceases to be that, might be time to give it up.
Perfect. You asked a great question. There is this thing called ignition, when you realize, whether you can vocalize it or not, that all you care about is baseball. It is okay to singularly look at the world through baseball eyes. It doesn't relieve you of your responsibility of being a good student, good parent, a good kid.
Right.
All those other things are still in place. But everything you do, baseball is in the forefront of trying to get better every day. Those are the guys that get to the big leagues. Those are the guys that, no matter what is going on with their life, everything that they do is contributing in some way for them to get to the big leagues. And again, you can get to the show with just great talent, but to stay there, you have to have that commitment to excellence, that everything you do, when you read the paper in the morning, you might be reading about something in the government, but it's through a baseball eye saying, okay, that's going to affect getting to the everything.
Yeah.
And it's singular of purpose because it has to be that way. You can't spread your talent that thin and try to be good at other things. And this is what amazes me about guys that play both sports on the elite level.
Right.
How does a Deion Sanders do that and be good at it? Bo Jackson's, guys that play, two different sports on the elite level. They're not only special athletes, but they're special people. For the most part, you commit to being the best you can be to get to the big leagues one day at a time. And It doesn't relieve you of being a good person or a contributing member of society. But everything has to be done with a baseball eye.
Yeah, I had a young man I work with, had a really good major league career. I don't want to say anything that would kind of but a mutual friend said that he had said at a point as he became pretty prominent in Major League Baseball, there came a time when he just like had a moment of, everybody approaches me because they want something from me. I can't remember. And well, I had another Major League buddy, and his best friend never knew anything about a baseball field. And when we coached together, and this guy had pitched in the big leagues, we would go on trips together. And this friend from high school, I'm talking with him. I say, hey, your friend's really an awesome guy. He goes, he's the only guy that never cared that I played baseball.
Yeah.
And he's always been my best friend since childhood. He goes, because he never cared that I played baseball.
If you're an athlete on the elite level, everything you do is conditionally responsive to the fact you are a baseball player. It's Tom House, who caught Henry Aaron in 7:15. Society doesn't look at you for who you are. They look at you for what you do. And it takes some getting over, especially when you're done. Because when you're done, nobody cares that you're a good dad. When they get together and tell stories, it's about what was, it's not about what is.
Wow. So
I actually did my for my graduate thesis, I did that on the terminal adolescent syndrome. If you played an elite sport for any length of time, you're never accepted for who you are. You're accepted for what you did.
And there's kind of a default wanting to freeze the clock, stay in adolescence.
Yeah, and they only have fun with what used to be, not with what's going on now.
Well, I know you're so aware of Mantle and what some of the things he went through. And Pat Summerall's a really interesting character, how he reached out to Mantle. He really helped Michael Irvin through a tough time. So I listened to Madden and Summerall all those years, but some of those painful interviews I heard with Mantle late, all the identity was lost. Yeah. First of all, he's living for the dad dream thing. He's consumed with that. But then when it's over, it's like, hey, Mickey, have a drink. Go to this.
What do I do now?
Yeah, what do I do? Right. Oh, and you know the story about the dream when he's always trying to get back into Yankee Stadium, right. And Yogi and the other guys are there.
Wouldn't let him get. And I have that dream even now.
Really?
Where I'm coming down the stairs and I see the bus driving away.
Oh, wow.
And I can't get through the circular door.
Wow.
To catch the bus. So your brain never really gives up.
Wow. I didn't know. You never told me that one before. So
you get over that. You realize it's just how your gestalt is held together, how your map of reality is held together. Still looking at times through the baseball eyes, but realizing you have to adjust to your circumstances for today.
I will say that I listened at a Norfolk, Virginia sports club luncheon, Gaylord Perry, years ago. And I thought, if there's ever a guy that really just flat got it, enjoyed it, it was Perry.
Yeah.
He's telling funny, he went a hell of a lot of games, Hall of Famer, right. And but I'm listening to him, and he's a North Carolina guy growing peanuts down in North Carolina at the time, and he's just telling stories.
Simple.
And I don't think he probably ever absorbed it too much as being.
It wasn't necessary. His map of reality, the way he looked at the world, didn't cause jealousy or I wish this or I wish that. He's a creature of the moment and did really well with it.
He's just good enough athlete to play in the major leagues and did it.
Yeah.
Made some money. Right. Tom, anything else you'd like to say closing?
I know we got to keep doing this.
Absolutely.
And when you ask a good question and you get good answers, that's the ultimate in communication. So you do a good job. I'll hang out with you anytime.
Well, I love you, man. Think the world of you. And again, folks, this is More to Consider. Please like and subscribe. I know I do a lot of different subjects, but I do a lot of baseball because I'm kind of immersed in that world. I love the game and I love to teach it. Tom House, Major League pitcher. Again, subject in part on the movie $1 Million Arm, which I think is one of the great stories. Watched it on the plane flight coming out here. So this is a fascinating guy. It's worked with NFL quarterbacks for a number of years. And just a fascinating figure because he played at the highest level and he's taught elite athletes at the highest level. So please look into him, look into his history. There's a lot of videos up with him, a lot of his instructional videos. A lot of parents, I hope, hear this and kind of wonder, like, how do I make Junior's life better in competitive sports? He has a lot of answers to this, especially from the mental emotional side, how kids cope with competition and failure. So please make that happen. More to consider. Thanks, everybody, for coming on. See you soon. Thanks, Tom.
Good job, Jack.
Thanks for tuning in. If you like the show, subscribe and hit your notification button to get an update when we post another episode. See you soon.